Cards that had great potential but eventually fell off. Now, what do I exactly mean by that? What I mean by that is cards that had great potential when they were first announced, but eventually didn't see play at all, or at the very best, or at the very least, guess I should say, it was a very niche usage. So, without any particular order, let's jump on in. We start off with Gordian Slicer. Now, what does Gordian Slicer do? Gordian Slicer says that this card's activation and effect cannot be negated. So that is already starting up to be a great example of a great card, right? Well, at the start of your main phase 1 or 2, target any number of face-up cards on the field. For each targeted card, banish one card from your hand or 6 from your extra deck face down, then return those targeted cards to the hand. Now, you would say that this is a great card because not only is it successful in breaking your board, or breaking your opponent's board, I should say, but the cost of it having to be at the start of the main phase 1 or 2 already is limiting on how powerful this card could really be. On paper, this card is of course a very good card, but yeah, it's only on paper, and in reality, this card basically didn't see play at all. And that is really sad because, like I said, on paper, this is a fantastic card. It's just not good enough, I would say. And in a similar vein, you have Ultimate Slayer, which says your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to this card's activation, which also seems like a very great card, or at least a very great start of a card. And then it says like send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then target one monster your opponent controls with the same card type, fusion, synchro, axis, pendulum, or link, and shuffle it into the deck. So it's already better by shuffling it into the deck instead of just shuffling it into the hand. Even though with an extra deck monster, it would be the same thing, but I digress. Anyway, this card also seems like a very great card, especially if you think that you can just send Garura to the graveyard and then get rid of their fusion monster, or send Malong and get rid of their synchro monster, which are both great cards for the target of this card. But also this card basically never even saw play, so I think that also went not as Konami intended, because this card was hyped up to be a very powerful and useful card, but eventually it just barely saw any play, if at all. In a similar vein, there you have simultaneous equation cannons, which has a very long effect, which basically translates to if you can do math, then you can resolve this and banish your entire field, or sorry, can banish your opponent's entire field, face up and face downs, entirely. So this is a better field wipe overall than Gordian Slicer or Ultimate Slayers were. But yeah, even this card, it just fell off, not necessarily because it isn't powerful enough, because I would say that this card is very much more powerful than Ultimate Slayer or Gordian Slicer is, them combined. Yeah, this card just didn't see play because you have to build your entire extra deck around it, and building your entire extra deck around a card might not be the best play because you might need some of the extra deck slots to actually topple your opponent. But it's still on paper, in my opinion, the best card so far, even though, it's a shame that it just didn't live up to the hype that it initially got. Well, then we have a similar card in Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched also banishes basically the entirety of the opponent's field, except for the amount of cards that you have on your field. But yeah, you have to give up your battle phase for it. I don't even want to go over the effect because this is such a useful card and has seen usage in the past, but it just doesn't live up to its name anymore. You are not evenly matched. Yeah, pun fully intended when you use this. And yeah, it just basically fell off, even though back in TOS format, or was it released in DOS format? I believe so, right? Yeah, it saw some decent play and was actually a useful card, but yeah, in today's day and age, no. This is just not a good card anymore, and that is quite sad to say. Then we have a very interesting card on this list, and that is Draw Discharge. Now, what does this card do? Because I'm pretty sure that some of you guys are learning about this card now for the first time ever. And this card says, when your opponent draws a card, or multiple, by uh, by their own card effect, look at those cards, and if any are monsters, inflict damage to your opponent equal to their combined attack. And if you do that, banish all cards you looked at. And you can only activate one of these cards per turn. So on paper, this is also, again, a pretty decent card, because there are just a lot of decks that want to draw a lot of cards, either through a tactic talent or an archetypal draw to discard one kind of card, you know? And yeah, so this card has the potential to be great. It's just it just doesn't do it enough. Even with the burn damage, even with banishing the card that was drawn, or both cards, or all three cards, or however many you drew, it just doesn't do enough anymore. And yeah, it's really sad. If this was a quick play spell card, maybe then it could see some amount of play, or if this was just a monster effect that could be activated from the hand or something like that. But yeah, it isn't, so therefore I think that because it is a trap card, that it didn't see play at all. Another card that is, in my opinion, a great example of a card that eventually fell off or just doesn't do enough anymore is the infamous the very infamous surrender button. Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis. Yeah, I just genuinely believe that this card isn't good enough anymore. Yeah, this card only gets rid of one monster your opponent controls, basically, and yeah, that just isn't good enough to break a board or break through your opponent's strategy. Anyway, yeah, that is basically all the cards that I had in mind that have great potential, or had great potential at least, and they just didn't live up to the hype that they initially got. Even though they on paper are very strong and they have seen some competitive play in one way, shape, or form. So take what I have said with a grain of salt, but I think that these are a few cards that just fell off or just didn't live up to the hype they initially got in the first place. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below.